Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode on the product design series of Creatives Ignite. And I am psyched to introduce to you a new to the show. I know we have lots of people. We've gone for 12 years, but I have never had Tim on. And Tim, I'm like looking at how Joe says his last name, which is the same last name as yours, but you don't know each other yet. But Baron, right? Like the Red Baron,
like the Red Baron.
Tim Baron. So you probably have seen some of Tim's work. And just in case you don't know, like I am not really a skeleton girl, but I have another skeleton poster underneath this. I have to rotate, but I got two posters and an action figure from Tim. And these are awesome. You can't really see them because they're so far away, but I put them up this morning. I got them, I think, while I was at this conference. And I had a kid who was sitting in here waiting for advising. He's like, man, I was looking at those. Those are awesome. And Tim also gave me some stickers and he gave me 3. And I gave that kid one. And I said, don't tell anybody because I don't want to be like I'm favoritism, of any student. But these are awesome. And I know I was like, oh my gosh, Tim, this is perfect right before Halloween. This is awesome. So Tim was just like us. We were just you're going to give us this background, but you were just a regular designer with these awesome skills, but you were working just corporate design for a long time.
Yes.
A long time, right?
Oh, so long, so very long, seemingly endless time. One could say.
So I think we love this is a hope story. This is also like just trust your gut. Like you have these mad skills, you got to lean in and then you go all in, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what you did. You'd kind of, for I don't know how many years you're going to tell us, but you kind of straddled the both worlds. You were doing the 9 to 5 and then you were having this side hustle or side gig that you were doing where it really was your passion.
Yeah, and stayed up way too late, past my bedtime every single night.
Because it was fun, right?
It was fun, and I had to have something to carry me into that next day. I'm about to go design insurance forms for 7 hours a day. I need to draw monsters until 2:30 a.m.
Absolutely, of course. And Mark Bowden's here. He's in Bermuda, so it's always good. And Maura's here in Cary, North Carolina. I'm glad everybody's here. So, Tim, give everybody a little bit of your background about maybe if you were always an artsy kid, if you always liked skulls. And I mean, you are really good at drawing. And then we'll get into some of these questions about how your process is and then also just how you come up with new products since you're in the product design series. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me on, Diane. I appreciate it. So I'm Tim Baron. I'm an illustrator, designer. I work primarily in the skateboarding and toy industries, though I do stuff in snowboarding. I do stuff with tattoo conventions and anything in between. But the two primary industries that I work in are skateboarding and toys. And so I've been drawing since I just pulled out some drawings that I did that my mom kept when I was like 3 years old. And then at like 4 or 5, she had some superhero drawings that I did because every morning before I'd go to school, I would watch the Bozo Show on WGN, I think it was, and they would show superhero cartoons. They would show like Superman or Batman, and I did these like series of like 5 or 6 drawings of all these superheroes when I was like 4 or 5, and my mom saved them. I've still got them. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So I've been drawing since I could pick up a pen. Yeah.
At 3, was it like what I would draw now? Like, is it, I'm scared a little bit to see how good the 3-year-old drawing was, but I would love to know. So then did you draw in high school?
Oh yeah.
Did you skate in high school? Because I know skateboarding still. One of the images I used was you doing this. I mean, I don't know how you got the shot unless you were going in the air over somebody, right?
Yeah, my buddy John Wagner, who's an amazing photographer, we did a barter, and I did a t-shirt illustration design for him, and then he did some photos, and that was one of them. He got me in mid-flight or whatever
Yes,
you'd say.
it was awesome. So
Yeah.
you started skating.
Yeah, I started skating in 5th grade. Like I was one of those. I was just kind of like I was a slender kid, and like all the dudes wanted to play football at recess, and I'm like, this is like, not only is this not fun, like it's just not interesting to me. And so like I just didn't have a strong pull towards sports. But I was over at my neighbor's house, like my best buddy Jason next door, and I didn't know. I think the only exposure I had really had to skateboarding was from seeing Back to the Future, and I think that came out when I was like in 4th grade or something like that. And so I remember that scene where, he had a skateboard and he did a jump over a thing. And everybody thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's all I knew. And then my neighbor had one in his garage, and it almost like I had been over there so many times, but I had never noticed it. And I was just almost like the heavens opened up and a light shone down. I was like, what's that? And they were like, oh, it's a skateboard. And I was like, can I try it? And he showed me how to ride it. And then every time I'd go over there after that, I would ride it. So
that's awesome. So this is no helmet zone, right? At this point, nobody has any kind of
what's
padding.
A helmet? Yeah,
right,
what's a
right. Helmet? I need helmet. But so then, when in your life did you stop? Did you stop skating, and then when did you pick it back up because you're back to skating?
Sure. So from 5th grade all the way up through, probably like 23, I skated a lot through high school and college. And then, got married in my early/mid 20s, and then started having kids. And so I just and then working full time and stuff like that, and just kind of lost that. And every once in a while I would play around with it, but it wasn't until age 36, I think it was. So it lay dormant for a good decade and a half. And it was age 36, like the guys at the break table at work got so tired of hearing me talk about like these skateboarding glory stories. They were like, you should just start skating again. So special thanks to my friend Mike for recommending I start skating again. So I did. I bought a board from a friend and I started up, and then like within a year, I reconnected with some old like skate bros that I knew from the early 90s, and they were doing some cool stuff. One of them was running a skate park. One of them had worked with, skateboard company out in California. And so had friends and connections. And so it was like, it was a very natural evolution back into that world, a very joyful. And it was like, life was not really great at that time. So it came in at literally like, it couldn't have come in at more of a perfect time for me.
All right. So skating was in and out, and now it came back in.
Yeah.
And then what about drawing? So, because sometimes drawing, we can get sucked into all the whirlwind of our life as well. Is that something that also happened, or were you always drawing?
I was always drawing. I'd say for a short period of time, it was kind of directionless, and that I was out of college and I wasn't, what I'm saying? I had started working this design. I had taken like 2 design classes at the end of my like senior year. I didn't know anything.
What did you study?
I was a fine arts major with a focus in drawing. So,
okay.
But it wasn't until I would say like the late 2000s, maybe 2006 is when I first started doing like freelance work. There was a couple small book companies that had contacted me to do some illustrations. And that's when I just started getting my feet wet with some freelance work. And then I was always, as a kid, I was always obsessed with comic books. And I had sort of gone through this rediscovery of comics again also. And I was like, I really want to do this. I really want to make a comic, some comic book stuff. And so that got me started on my first graphic novel.
So writing also, because that's it, or somebody else was going to write it and you were going to.
Yes.
Okay. That's how
Yeah.
I'm with you. That's how I did my book
Yeah,
too.
like all the art when I did it, like I did pretty much all the art and then just handed him the pages and he kind of scripted it backwards and he did a beautiful my buddy Ben Avery and he did a beautiful job. And him and I ended up going on to do several things together and we worked really good together. And so that the comic stuff really boosted me because you just get so much drawing practice when you're doing comics because it's like you got to draw several panels on a page and so you just get used to drawing anything and everything and whatever. And so that really, I think, pushed me forward into the next phase of my creative career.
But you really did come up you wrote in your head, you wrote it with images.
Oh, absolutely.
You knew what
Yeah,
the story was, and then somebody just wrote the script, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because you're not like, here they are at the grocery store and here they are fighting evil apples. I don't know. You had a story in mind. You put the story out and then you talked to your friend and then he wrote the script for that same story.
Yeah, the narrative was completely there. And it was a cool process too, because it didn't come to me all at one time. It was a very sort of David Lynchian style process where like little bits came sliding underneath my door. And then slowly I'm like, and I initially thought it was two stories. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is part of the same story. So the first graphic novel is called The Life and Times of Julius Destructus. And I'm still like super proud of it.
And when did you do that one?
That would have been, it came out in 2012. And so this was before like Instagram. At least I wasn't on Instagram until 2015, 2014, 2015. And so I self-published it and then, sold it at a couple like Comic Cons and online a little bit. But other than that, didn't do a whole lot with it. But now there's so many different, avenues to take with something like that.
Yeah. And much cheaper printing.
Yeah,
than it was in 2012 for sure.
Yep.
Okay. So, let's talk a little. So you get out of college, you just working design. And it maybe is paying the bills, but it isn't reaching you. It's not scratching that itch. You're still drawing, but when do you decide, hey, was the first thing the comic book, or were you making drawings and selling them or making products and selling them before that? So which came first, comic book or like the posters and the comic is what started it basically for me. And there was like a couple of small like t-shirt jobs, but I wasn't actually doing my own stuff at that time. It was mostly like shirts for the skate park or shirts for a friend's band, that sort of thing. But it was like the comics, the graphic novels that I made that was the first like sort of thing that I endeavored in on from your head.
Yep. And that's kind of what started me in that direction. Yeah, very much so.
So then how long did it take to finish? Like you had never done that before. So I'm sure the first one maybe took longer than the next one. But how long was that process for you? Was it 2 years? Was it 6 months?
Yeah, I think that first one, it was about 5 years because I would work, like I would have like kind of, an image of a scene and then I would do the scene, but like nothing was connecting yet. And then suddenly like I laid it all out on the floor one night. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally see it coming together. And it was like, I still remember that sort of like epiphany style moment. And then it was just like, I was back and cause I would shelf it for like months at a time. And then suddenly for some reason it like grew legs and told me exactly what it wanted to be. And
so like a normal writer, sometimes they take a long time
they got to incubate.
Come up with that. So I think that's probably good that you weren't so rushed. And then you launch it with kind of the limited social media that was at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it was Facebook is what pretty much all there was.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, did you, at that point, you have a product, did you go to Comic Cons? Did you go? I mean, were you just selling it to people you knew or the followers that you had on like Facebook and things like that? Or were you were going to local things or?
Both. I mean, it was like local Midwest Comic Cons that I would set up at, which was a really good start. I mean, it was a comic book style product. You've got a comic book loving audience overlapping with people who love different pop culture things and monsters. Right. And so that was primarily the outlet for that. And that it worked good.
But you went with one product, which was multiple pages, obviously. But
I forget, I actually published the very first thing, even before the graphic novel, was a sketchbook. Like I had so many, and this might be a good idea for somebody out there who's an artist, that they just have an abundance of sketches that are solid and really good. It's so easy to be able to put those in just like even if you want to just make a PDF out of it and make it a free download or something like that, super easy. But that's what I did with my very first, I was going to see if I had a copy of it. I may have a copy of it back there. I'll look in a little bit, but yeah, the very first thing was just this like, I don't know, it's probably like 100 pages of just sketches, and it was kind of broken down into different sections. And I was really surprised the first Comic-Con that I set up at, people really bought it.
Oh yeah, I bet. If you're drawing since you're 3, I bet your sketchbooks are amazing. So let's talk about your process a little bit. The actual process of you coming up with ideas, or you actually drawing out things. Mm-hmm. What is your preferential way to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times, sometimes a client will come to me and they'll have an idea that's already baked and ready to go. And, that can make it so much easier. But most of the time, it's sort of like the existential wandering through the desert of trying to find what this project wants to be. And so for me, and I brought an example, like everything starts with like a red ballpoint pen on sketch paper.
Like a Bic pen?
Like a Bic pen, except for red. There's something about the color red.
I have red one right over there, I think.
Yeah. So everything starts out like this. Like for me, you can just kind of see. Yeah. And it's just, I'll write down keywords and ideas and, and then I'll start with like, a generic concept, and then I'll kind of start inking it in with like a black pen just to make, and it's just so bare bones. They're thumbnail sketches is all they are. But there's something about the non-permanent, non-committal nature of red ballpoint pen on sketch paper that just frees my mind up in those initial phases. Cause I find that that's like, for me, sometimes it can be the most joyful part, but sometimes it can be the most difficult part, is coming up with the concept, coming up with the idea. And so as like limber and easygoing as your brain can be, and the least amount of stress if possible, like that's kind of where the idea is, the fertile seedbed of inspiration or whatever.
Well, you seem super prolific, so it seems funny that you have problems coming up with that initial idea. Because I mean, your characters have wide range, and there's a lot of differeces within them, and then you're creating kind of scenes, and I mean, there's a lot going on. So it's good to know that there's a lot of practice. So how often per week are you sitting down to just sketch? And I don't know what you're sketching, if it's not for a client project, or even if it's something that maybe is an idea for something that you're going to be doing as a product, or we don't know if it's a product yet, but it's an idea.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. And like a couple months ago, I realized that I was really struggling with like my figure drawing skills. I was like so rusty. And so I just started as a general, kind of a discipline to start my day with just some quick gestural sketches. And I can find a couple here to show you. But
so this is always like you do this now?
So I do this now, and this is before I get into any work. I get on Pinterest, and I've got these pages that I've created where I just have like, pins of like models and whatnot.
And you still start with the red pen first, it looks like.
I still start with the dang red pen.
I love that idea.
And what that does is, first off, it gives me something really easy to cross off my list of something that I've accomplished for the day, because I'm like that.
An early win. Crossing. Yes.
Yeah. And then it's also, it's drawing practice, it's figure drawing practice. And it's also like a way to ease into my projects. Like sometimes it's kind of clunky if I just go from 0 to 80,
Yes.
and into something. So it's a way to ease the brain back into the creative space. And I found and it really has also helped me to enjoy just drawing for the sake of drawing again.
So how long has that been part of your process?
Uh, I've been doing it for about 2, 3 months now.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much daily, probably about 5 times a week, because I'll go to a coffee shop and where I'll do my, work on my stuff. But I'll always start with those sketches. And, sometimes I would do that, but it was very, sometimes I would just sit down and draw like monsters or whatever. But I found that I was so focused in on client work that I didn't have a lot of bandwidth for my own things. And so this was just a way for me to stay active just for the sake of drawing. And again, just exploring drawing the figure and poses, which is always relevant to an illustrator, because you're always drawing people, you're always drawing poses. And so it's been very rewarding. Like I really love doing it.
I love that. So over in the chat, people are saying first the red pen gives Kevin PTSD from high school papers, I think. But
this is his chance to do exposure and response therapy.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So Hannah and Paul were like, yeah, red pen is a really good idea. And
I don't know what it is either. Something about the red.
Well, I think it's Paul says it pretty good. He says red pen is brilliant, like inking over a pencil sketch, but with the permanence of ink. No undos, just keep moving forward. But it's also lighter so that the value is kind of really soft, but with pencil, it's kind of the same tone or same pigment, I guess. Mm-hmm. You can go really dark, but I think with the red, you can only go you can't photocopy red like you can black or pencil, right? So yeah, I love that idea. It's a nice little hack on working. So you get better with everything. You get better with just the quickness of working. So, but you mentioned something that wasn't in my questions, but so again, the safe word always, I don't know if I told you this before, it's rooster. If I ever ask you a question, you're like, I do not want to answer that. Just say rooster and then I will just move on. That's our safe word. So if you have, and I think a lot of people deal with this, so they have ideas of products maybe they want to make, but they have a lot of client work. It's hard to balance how much client work do I put in my week and how much of my work do I put in my week, right? So how do you make time, or how do you break that up so that you're still, because as you build a business that's based on your artwork, not just doing client work,
right?
Because that's really, you're building a brand. How do you, but if you never spend time or you only spend 5 hours a week drawing for your brand, it may pay the bills, but you're not long-term. This isn't investing in what you really want to be doing. Right. Yeah.
I think I understand your question. Basically, like, how much time do you know how to devote to this sort of thing? So I don't know if I probably don't have like the definitive answer, but here's how I do it. And this is my buddy, Aaron, who's an amazing illustrator. He kind of does the same thing, is like, I've got the client work. But as we all know, if you're independently employed as a freelancer like that, undulates. And so and I try to keep things full. But on those weeks where it's getting slim, I try to focus in on, okay, I want to work on my Etsy. Like, so for instance, a couple of weeks ago, I had some time. I was like waiting on some responses from some clients. And, so I had some time, and I've been trying to think about how to scale the Etsy stuff. Like, I've done a lot of stuff and it's like, okay, I've had a reasonable amount of success. It's done good, but like, how do you take it to the next level? And so I was exploring print on demand services, and I discovered Printful and how you can integrate that into your Etsy. And so I spent a whole day doing that. And then I spent a couple days creating designs that I could use on t-shirts, that I could use on blankets, that I could use on, I even created these little plush characters that are like 2 feet tall. And it's time that I've spent or invested doing that so that I have more things available in the Etsy store. Now, will those sell? I have no idea. Like the shirts have sold. Okay. I've sold a blanket, but it's so much of it is just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Well, and there's less of a hurt on your pocket. It's just a time hurt if you're trying to do things that are print on demand.
Yep.
But I didn't know there was a print on demand plushie option.
Yeah, in Printful. And I think there's another service called Printify, which I'm sure has very similar items. But yeah, they're pillows. You can get them in like 22 inches, 16 inches, and like 10 inches. And so I designed some big monster ones. I just put those up the other day. And
cool.
I ordered one for a sample, so we'll see how they look.
Yeah, I think that's always helpful to order to see what the material.
Yeah, totally. So that's basically how I approach it. And then also I have sort of anchoring projects where every single Halloween, I do a Halloween poster. Whether it sells well or not, it's sort of my thing. I do it. And I try to make it sort of like my magnum opus for the year, because that's, Halloween stuff is very much part of my brand, if you will. And so I'll do that. And then also, like, if I go to like a Comic Con, like I went to San Diego Comic Con this summer, and I'm going to Designer Con in Vegas next month. And so what I'll do for that, and this is I repurpose certain posters that do really, really well and make them specific to the location. So I did a San Diego poster. I put like a San Diego skyscraper at the top, or city skyline at the top, and then some like a giant monster fighting a giant like hero guy, and then I put the outside of the whatever the San Diego Stadium thing where the Comic Con is on the bottom, and put a bunch of characters in front of it, and just made it very unique. Can't put San Diego Comic Con on there, but you can put San Diego.
Yeah.
The same thing with like Designer Con. I did one because it's in Vegas. I made it all Vegas-y and put all like Vegas stuff on it, and so we'll have that available at the table. So it's also a matter of repurposing. Looking at what you've done already that you have that you're sitting on, like you're sitting on money essentially, because you've got designs you've already done. How can you use those, and then how can you reuse them if people like them?
I love that idea. And just having a spot where you could change out either the venue or the city name, I think is brilliant for something like that. That is awesome.
Yeah, you just get tired of recreating the wheel. And you're like, what can I reuse and save some brain cells, and time?
All right. So when you're doing something like the poster, so one poster is, it looks like it's a 2-color. It's on maybe a cream, and then it's orange and blue, right?
Yeah.
This one that I got that I love.
Yeah.
So then for something like that, are those printed and you have those at your house, and that's you fulfilling? You are the fulfillment spot, right?
Yes. All the posters that are on my Etsy, I have those printed and fulfilled myself. I keep most
locally
of those on
for
hand.
You, where you are. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I work with a printer here in town. My buddy Corey over at Fangear Prints. He does a phenomenal job and prints these high-end G-Clay prints that the colors just burst with.
Oh yeah.
And he does a really great job. He uses great paper, and I've outsourced him or recommended him to clients for big jobs. Also, he does such a good job. So having him being my friend and working very closely with him, I just did an event with him this past weekend at his studio where it was like a pop-up event. And so I had all my prints and some toys and some skateboard decks for sale. And so it was a big event in Fort Wayne. It was really cool. So it's great to be able to team up with vendors that you trust and that you work closely with to achieve common goals and, in promoting each other.
Yeah.
essentially.
Well,
Yeah.
so one thing I hear is one, we just need to keep practicing, do whatever it takes, even if it's just 15 minutes or 3 minutes in the morning every day. Keep that
Yes.
habit going. But then
Yep.
also finding avenues that you can sell your work at, repurposing some of
Hmm.
the products that have done well so that you can customize them for those venues. And then
Hmm.
also partnering up and having ideas with other people. Matt says that that's in his neck of the woods. He's
Oh, right
in
on.
or outside of Indianapolis.
Awesome.
Um, so I think that those are awesome.
I
Just
got another one too.
okay, tell me.
I think this is a good one because a lot of people will, DM me or email me and ask me, how do I get started working on skateboards, or how do I get started designing toy packaging or whatever? And so my advice always to them is just like, start where you're at, like figure out what the needs are around you. So for instance, when I first started getting back into skateboarding, I had buddies that I knew for 25 years that were doing stuff within the skateboarding industry. Like, like I said, one of them ran a skate shop, another one ran an indoor skate park. Well, they contacted me if I could help them. I'm like, absolutely. Like, I was so stoked to get my board. It was the first time I had my board or my artwork on a skateboard. It was for this local shop, Rise Skateboards. And I knew the owner, Nick, from my teenage years, grew up with him. And so it was a really cool way of reconnecting with old friends with a common love of skateboarding. And my buddy Dan, who ran the indoor skate park and still does, working on him with like posters and then him printing his own boards and things like that. Like, look for the needs that are around you, and there will be times where you just, in order to get started, you just volunteer your services. Like if it's, I don't want to say for what's the old
Pro
saying?
bono. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, for exposure.
right.
That horrific statement that we all know so well. But I'd say when you're working with somebody like who has shares a common cause, like for me it was skateboarding. I traded my art for in-store. He gave me some in-store credit and some boards, and it worked out really, really well. So if you can strike up like a bartering deal, or if you just really want to get into something, sometimes you lob a freebie in the direction of a potential client. That's just,
well, and there is with good partnerships, there is, I'll do this and I hope your business goes, and then we can figure out what to do. Then they want to help you. It's not like you have anything written down, but it's just kind of in that vein. So for people starting, for sure. But you've done so let's talk about the action figures a little bit. So how did these come about? Like, I think Richard told me the story, but I want you to tell the story. So you draw all these creepy creatures, right?
Yeah.
So how did they become action
okay
figures?
So that was a really cool scenario right there, and that's an example of like how one small step leads to infinite opportunities. So basically, I think it was 2014 or 2015 when I got on Instagram, and I discovered what they call the bootleg toy community on Instagram. And it was this group of creatives that would take pre-existing like Kenner Star Wars figures from when we grew up, and they would, swap the head out for something else or do a mashup. They're like, one guy did a mashup of Walter White from Breaking Bad with Luke Skywalker. And, so it had the Luke Skywalker body, but like a Walter White head. So, so what I ended up doing is I ended up connecting with a lot of these guys, and these were my very first opportunities in working with toys. And they were, and a lot of times
what do you mean when you say connected? Because what does that mean?
Okay. Yeah. So for me, it was, posting my own stuff of what I was doing. And then also when I'd see somebody who is doing what I would love to be doing, I'll comment, I'll reach out, and I will let them know, hey, if you ever want to do a barter, I could do some card art for you in exchange for fill in the blanks. And that worked really, really well. Again, because you're dealing with you've got somebody who has one skill set, like molding and casting, but they might not be a very good illustrator and they might
Right.
not know anything
Or the
about
concept artist, right? Because you're not just a
yeah.
great illustrator, you're coming up with concepts on your
Yeah.
own.
And so I did a lot of, and I brought some of them here. I've got some. So I did several, and people would call these art toys. So it's things that I pretty much did myself. I outsourced the molding and the casting because that's not a good idea for me to be doing, being super ADHD, I found. But these are just some of the early ones that I did. And then also another idea is, and you guys might, but I found these skeletons at the dollar store and I just repackaged them like with my own branding. I've done that several times with different things.
Jason Craig does that. I'll connect you with him. He will think.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's hilarious. So anyway, so I just did a lot of these projects. I did several of my own, and then I did several with other guys that were doing this. And then my name kind of got out there in terms of like, oh, Tim's part, it was established within the art and toys community. And then it was a matter of connecting with an actual toy company. And in this case, with the Astro Zombies, it was a company called Super 7, which, their work I had long admired and sort of like dreamed to work with them. And this is a pretty cool story. And I had reached out to Brian Flynn, who's like the head at Super 7, super great guy. A couple times, and I had just sent him some stuff, and
like a portfolio or like just a PDF with some work. Like what were you sending?
Stuff. I sent him some free stuff. I sent him some. I had printed some shirts, and I had printed. I had done some boards, and I just, I think part of it is like. Because I knew he collected boards. I knew he was a fan of, and so I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna send this, and if somewhere down the road we get to work together, great. If not, that's okay too. So you just detach from outcomes,
Right.
And one of the shirts I had sent him was a They Live shirt. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. They Live. It's a John Carpenter film.
If it's scary, I don't watch scary movies.
It's actually not. It's not very scary. It's a great movie, but it was a They Live shirt, and it just had the face of the creature on there. And yes, came here to chew bubble gum. Exactly, Joe. And so I had sent him that, and then like a few months later, and this was awesome too because I was in the middle of and it was when things were not going well at the day job, and my morale was quite low, and just wasn't going real well. And I just remember in the middle of this like very downtrodden meeting I was in, where I was not feeling good about myself. I got a DM over Instagram from Brian Flynn asking, would you be up for some freelance? And I was just like, I
gotta go to the bathroom.
Yes. And so the very first project I worked on for Super 7 was these They Live figures.
Oh, awesome.
So it was cool. I sent him the They Live shirt, and he thought of me when they got the license to do the They Live figures. And shout out to Jason Edmiston, who did the card art on that. This is absolutely gorgeous. But
wow.
So yeah, so these are the very first like figures that I helped design that got made into actual, toys that were produced in a factory.
But
I did with those is I did the turnarounds, is what they call the turnarounds, which is like the basic drawings that the sculptor then looks at to sculpt the figure. So,
but you had proof that you could do this because you had already done it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then why wouldn't they have just done somebody else? Right. But the thing was that you tested it. You said, I have this idea. I want to see if I can pay somebody to mold this, and create this in 3D. I think that's really cool. So sometimes we have to put some stuff out. I also love the quote, detach from outcome. I think
absolutely.
That is your advertising. That's your advertising budget, is your shipping or your printing and sending. You're giving somebody something that they'll like, because you've been following them. You're not just randomly sending hundreds of these things out to different. You're being very strategic. So it's probably as much as an advertising budget with something else. But So it's that particular type of art is called, what is it again? The kind that Super 7, they said the process you were drawing. You just said it and I just
the turnaround remember. Drawings.
Was that what it's called? Turnaround?
The concept of turnaround drawings. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a front, back, and side view of what the figure should look like. And then the sculptor will take that, they send that to the sculptor, and then the sculptor looks at that and they base the sculpting of the figure off of those turnarounds. And they might adapt it a little bit here and there, but the basic look and feel is what they go after there. I've done several for them. I did this Anthrax one, which this was crazy because the very first issue of Thrasher magazine that I got in 5th grade had an ad for this album. And so to be able to work on this action figure was like super dream come true. So,
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the timeline for these? Are
2 years?
2 years. So you do this, the turnaround drawing, then they send you, and then do they send you like a something to look at to see if it's right? And then you edit, you say, nope, you got to add this. Let's make this deeper or this color. Or...
Yeah, typically all of those things are worked out during the turnaround process. Like I'll keep them really rough at first. Like I said, just keeping things rough. And then typically with any toy, like action figure company that I've worked with, it's basically like 3 rounds of the turnarounds where it's like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is very rough. And then you get, somewhat more polished. And then once you get the bugs worked out, you're pretty much there. And then you might have some smaller edits there at the very end.
Is it coming back to you after they've made the mold, like first round of mold, and then you're helping them get it cleaned up?
Doesn't come back to me.
Okay.
No, it goes right to the sculptor, and then they deal with the sculptor on any edits that they need to make on their end. And then a lot of times I'll get like a sample of the final product, which is really cool. With the Astro Zombies, they actually sent me a prototype figure, an unpainted prototype first pull a figure, which was really cool. I've got that on display in my toy display back in my bedroom.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah. So Kevin asked, what are the initial sculpts made from that your drawings are sculpted out of, or are they digitally 3D modeled? Do you know?
Oh, awesome question. I think that a lot of the ones that I do there's a company I work for called Plastic Meatball, and then I've done stuff for Super 7. And I think that they do both. I think that Plastic Meatball is both are great companies. Plastic Meatball, I think they try to use exclusively like just hand sculpted stuff instead of like a digital sculptor. And I'm not, I can't say for sure, but I think Super 7 probably uses a mixture of both, just, depending on the sculptor and what they do and how they do it. So it's, I'd say it's both, but I think that it's almost like screen printing where it's, not a lot of people do it anymore, but the people that do it are like masters at their trade, and it's like much respect for them. So it's the same. I'd say it's the same with people who do that sculpt the action figures to size with tools and whatnot. And I think they do it a lot of times either out of maybe wax or clay. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to come back to another question. So going back to process. So you start like you were saying, in a sketchbook, red line, then you go black line. And then how does it get to be that, like, how does it get to be so tight and polished? Is it tight and polished? Are you do it all by hand and it's there, or you do the figure and then you do the background in Photoshop or Procreate, or what does the rest of the process look like?
Yeah. So I typically mess with the little thumbnail sketch until I have it.
The whole thing, the full poster layout.
I design it really tiny, like I showed you earlier, and if I can find it again here, but I'll mess around with the thumbnail sketch until I have it pretty much exactly how I want it. Hold on. Let me find it again.
Do you like those Wiro ones for this?
I do. Yeah.
That's your go-to sketchbook.
Well, here's another example where I just kept things really, really small.
Yeah.
And darn it, I lost the one.
You needed flags. I always have those little plastic.
I'm not an organized person at all.
You seem organized. Everything behind you is really organized. So.
I can be organized with my toys, but that's about all. But yeah, basically, just like I said, it starts with the thumbnails, and then I'll just, maybe I'll do up to 7 to 10 on a page, even if I need to. And then typically one version starts shaping up as the very specific direction and feel. It's very organic and pliable. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Following the muse sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Flow. And one of them starts shaping up to look how I want it to look and have the feel that I want it to look like. So, and then from that, once I get to that, hold on, I just got to find it. Once I get to that phase, then it goes, it's just not going to happen.
It is. Just take your time. So some people like take a picture of it and then they put it on the computer and they
that's
start
exactly. I take it into
it.
Procreate. Yeah, okay. I'll take a photo
just
of
a
it.
photo. Okay.
Yep. I'll just take my iPad and then just open up Procreate. That's once I discovered that, and I discovered that at Creative South, actually, because I went in 2019 and every single human being I talked to was just like, oh, Procreate, iPad Pro. And I didn't have either. And I was still working on like a Cintiq and Manga Studio, an app called Manga Studio, which was great for digital inking. But once I discovered the iPad and that I could take it different places,
yeah, and
like the pencil was like smaller, like an actual pencil, and you could zoom way in, and you weren't chained to a desk. Mm-hmm. I was sold. I was absolutely sold on it, and it just revolutionized my workflow entirely.
So then do you finish up these in Procreate?
Yeah.
Colored and everything?
Typically what I'll do is I will take the thumbnail and I'll blow it up to the size I need it in Procreate. And then I will do a tight pencil sketch over the top of it where I clean things up and get things in nice shape and work things out to the point that I feel comfortable with them, because there's a lot. It's like at every stage, there needs to be a little bit of room for magic to happen in the next stage.
Yes.
And I found that if I don't get the bugs worked out in those early stages, things will fall apart in the inking stage. And it's like total existential crisis. Like I got to go back and figure out where I messed up. And it still happens to me all the time. So
I have to show, you keep talking. I'm going to show, this was my other one. I was like, I love this one. I may just have to get it after Christmas. This will be my Christmas present. But I think that you guys can see. So there's a lot of detail. So like he's talking about these tiny little thumbnails. I know when I do, even if it's detailed, it's not going to be amazing like what you're seeing here, right? Like there is a ton of detail in these pieces that you're working on. These are, you're not doing that in that tiny, it's coming, right?
Yeah.
But,
yep. Yeah. The Stay Rad Cap.
I love this guy. I'm going to flip through. So you keep talking. So
sure. So basically I will take the thumbnail sketch to the next phase, which is a really tight pencil drawing. And then after I get the pencil drawing to where I feel comfortable enough that I've worked the, compositional bugs out, I'll take it to, I'll start inking it. And I work very simply with Procreate. Like I basically almost only use like a couple of the pencils that I think it actually the pen or the
that comes with that
comes with the app. Like I'm not super I know I've got a couple extra purchases of like brushes from different companies that I use from time to time, but yeah, I use the Studio pen all the time with inking because it just provides this. Now these are actually inked traditionally, and then scanned and then colored in Photoshop. This is pre iPad Pro Procreate. And it's a
So,
totally
but your
different style of
color,
inking too.
your color is amazing, and how you're using it and thinking about color. I love
Yeah.
the CMYK in this one. I just think it's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but
There's something about drawing like scary things, but with fun, bright colors.
yes, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love this. And that maybe that is but the detail is so good.
Yeah. That was all inked traditionally with an actual brush, and then scanned on a
So what
large.
size were you having to work on something
Those,
like that?
yeah, I believe those were 11 by 17. The original drawings were, and then just scanned at a very high resolution.
I want to talk about the skate deck. So again, detail is incredible. And one of the questions that I had was, okay, so you're this fifth grader, inside of your man body. I still feel like we are that little kid inside of us.
Yeah.
Um, and you get to work with Tony Hawk. Like, how did that happen? And I mean, your work is amazing,
Thank you.
but like just making the connections to stuff, I can imagine that is just an incredible,
Oh yeah.
I don't
Yeah, it
know,
was a
dream
bucket
come
list
true.
item for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, totally a bucket list item. If you get a chance, and you can pull up the Plague Doctor graphic, hopefully I sent that to you, the Tony Hawk graphic.
Yes,
If not,
I have it. Yep.
okay, awesome. If you pull that up, I'm happy to tell the story
Okay,
of.
let me find it, and then I'll be, because everything's on that computer, but I can
Got
get
it.
it to this computer.
It is on my website if you need to go there.
Okay, yes, great.
So just to start the story out, I had done a drawing. I was kind of in this phase where I'd find these old drawings in skateboard magazines that really, like, they were kind of from the era that I grew up in, and I would redraw them but make them. Yeah, there it is, far left there at the very top.
This one, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so and I did this one of Tony Hawk. It was this ad, I think it was from like 1988. It was him leaning on a skateboard, and I just redrew it, but like I made him a skeleton, like kind of in the style of the artist Pushead. And I had just posted it to Instagram, not thinking anything of it. Got some likes, but then somebody tagged Tony Hawk on it, and he responded, which blew my mind. He responded something. It was something like, "This is cool. Let's make this happen." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and because you can't just slide into Tony Hawk's DMs, you know. And so I had to figure out a way to make contact with somebody from Birdhouse or one of the companies that he works with, and be like, "Hey, Tony wanted to use this art," and so I finally got through to like an art director, and they had me pitch some. They liked it, and they had me pitch some skateboard deck ideas, and this is the one that won out right here, the Plague Doctor deck, and which is ironic too. It like came out during COVID, so 2021. I designed it in 2020, and it hit the stores in 2021. And this is like one of the proudest accomplishments of my entire life. Like, I just love the design. It was, and it's funny, I've got a bunch of photos on my phone of me posing for the image, because a lot of times I'll use photo reference. And so I've got these really dorky photos of me like standing profile holding like a broom. Right. And, just so I get the fabric folds just right and whatnot. But yeah, super proud of this. And
so is this like your most proudest product that you've made? Because you made it on your own, and then they just saw it, and then you tweaked maybe.
Yeah, well, this isn't what they saw. They saw something else, but then had me pitch them some ideas, and this was one of the ideas that they really liked. So we went with it. So yeah, this was a massive threshold project for me to be able to do, because Tony Hawk was like, he like when I was in fifth grade. I remember the first time I saw a Tony Hawk graphic on the bottom of a skateboard. Like, I still had like a junky Target board.
Right.
And like the cool kids in my neighborhood had like what they called pro boards, which like was like a Tony Hawk or a Lance Mountain or a Mike McGill. And this one kid named Matt had a Tony Hawk board. And first of all, I was like amazed that somebody had a name that was that cool.
I know.
And then the graphic on the board was this hawk, like this chicken skull, and like all these design patterns in the back. I was just absolutely throttled by it. And the artist that did it, his name is VC Johnson. And those images that he did, like those are permanently embedded in my creative DNA. Like that's part of me. And so I was just immediately, when I saw that Tony Hawk graphic, I was just absolutely seized by the coolness of it. And like, it was just something other that I hadn't experienced before. Like
it kind of brought your two worlds together. It seems
it
like
really did. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Because I was like, months prior, I was still like secretly buying Transformers and playing with them in secret. And then, started skateboarding and then connecting with these like older cool kids, and then discovered the skateboarding subculture, that it is this like crazy, creative, subversive world of music, art, graffiti, attitude, punk rock, like DIY. It was just an awesome subculture. And it really, like, I really connected with it because I wasn't like football kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't baseball kid. I was like, oh man. And because I was like, naturally, I was pretty good at it. Like, it was like my build was perfect for it. And I still have a pretty sick ollie. Like my ollie still has some pop to it at age 48. I'm proud to say.
That's awesome.
So, but I was like really good with like air, and that's right there. That photo that you're looking at right there was from the Tony Hawk, Jason Ellis podcast.
You did this.
Right? I got asked to do the Hawk versus Wolf podcast board, which was a huge honor also. So, and they sold out, and they actually reprinted it also.
So that's also a huge accomplishment as well, so being asked to do that, but also having a board that you've created sell out. And I mean, that again, so this happened after your first board, right?
Yep.
So was the same kind of like, hey, did they get back to you, or did you know Jason, or?
Yeah, I did some projects for Jason, and I had pitched my buddy Mark Kowalchuk, an amazing illustrator, had put me in touch with another company called Red Dragon, and Jason is part of Red Dragon. Jason liked what I did for Red Dragon, and then he reached out to me, and I had suggested doing a podcast board, and he liked the idea, and then we went ahead and did it, and they ended up using it, and they ended up, I believe they sold out of the first run, and I think they sold out of the second run too. They reprinted it with like a gold background.
Oh, and, cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
So like for me, looking at styles, your use of just two color is powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's why I ended up going with the, I don't know what you call that guy.
The skater dye guy.
Skater dye guy. But I really like the two color work, but this even has like printmaking feel, etching, and again, is such a craftsmanship. There's huge craftsmanship here, but also just compositionally, you are keeping us, I mean, just the angle, it's just beautiful. Like this is just gorgeous of a piece. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to do something in one color or two color, or mainly with lines or something. I just kind of wanted to flip through some for people.
Yeah, it's hard to know when to stop sometimes with color. And then sometimes I've noticed, especially with like gig posters, like limited color palettes seem to be really huge with like gig concert posters for bands and stuff, like very specific intentional use of color, which is really cool.
So then,
that last image that you looked at, the black and red image, the Clive Dixon board, that was very much pulling inspiration from old like printmakers like Gustave Doré and Albrecht Dürer for this piece. If you look at the lines, like they're all kind of running in the same direction.
Yes,
and very, very woodcut-esque.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It feels like, I know woodcut. It actually feels etching to me. So etching is finer grain. You're on the fine. I don't know how much you know about printmaking, but etching is that finer grain part, and then woodcut could be just the regular part of the wood that
thicker lines and
but I mean, it is it's gorgeous. So
Thank
then
you.
I've seen this with yours that I remember Halloween. So
Hmm.
is this the Halloween, like the yearly kind of Halloween?
Yeah, I try to do one of those every year.
And it
And
always says I remember Halloween.
yeah, and
Okay.
it's a reference to a lyric in a Misfits song called
Okay.
Halloween. Misfits, my all-time favorite band, like a horror punk band, and they've just provided me so much inspiration over the years. Just it's always like a go-to.
Oh, cool.
Um, so yeah, some of these images are there's the Obey. That was the I had sent a black and white shirt of that to
Oh,
Brian from Super Seven, and
cool.
yeah,
Okay, so I want to ask about this. So this shows a lot of your characters, and I know
yeah.
we're out of time. I just realized I just looked at the time. So I don't know how you come up with all of these. Like to me, like I get Frankenstein and Dracula, but I don't know if all mutant guy, he's new to me, and
Hmm.
the Metulus, I don't know what that guy's name is, but like these are creepy and awesome. And again, color work is so great. But
Thank
how do
you.
you come up with all of these?
Well, there's a cool story behind this one in
Okay.
that. So when I was a little kid, and like so much of my art, like I had a super joyful childhood. Like I had the coolest childhood ever. Like it was just, filled with toys and cartoons and comic books and Garbage Pail Kids and
Hmm.
just everything cool that a kid growing up in the '80s could, you know, what I'm, could experience. It was just a fun, creative childhood. And so when I was really little, like kindergarten little, every time my mom would take me to the store. She'd always get me these, and because I'd always post them on stick them on something, but she'd always give me these monster stickers. They were puffy,
Oh, uh-huh.
and that like the Dracula, like these are like most of these are just redraws of those monster stickers, which I believe the original ones were pretty poorly drawn,
Mm.
and several companies had done them, and so you'll find them on eBay in various levels of like good to bad art. But I've always been so enamored, and sometimes if like something like that from way back then affected me in such a way that it's like eating away at me in like a really good way, and I have to like get it out of my system
Hmm.
and kind of do an homage to it. Like that's what this is. Like I basically redrew all those Puffy Monster stickers and then added a few extras from like some old like monster magazines and just made a poster out of it. And yeah, so that's where that comes from. Like I said, a lot of times there is things from my childhood that really stuck in my brain,
Hmm.
and yeah, as an adult, and just still have to it's almost like a celebration of the thing,
Yeah.
that a way of processing it and just loving it and appreciating it and making a piece of art as an homage to it, if you
I
will.
love this age 35 and up. I like anybody in
Yeah.
their 20s.
Yep.
I'm sorry you aren't able to buy this. Like we need to card you before. I think that's great.
Yep.
All right, so Chewy's my favorite. Okay, so I'm gonna stop share because I want to just drill down just a second.
Sure.
Um, what do you think going out on your own, leaving the day job behind and saying I'm going all in, all the water's gonna be from this bucket? Um, what kind of mindset hurdle do you or did you have to get over to be able to just make that commitment?
That's an awesome question. And so I would say, okay, I'll try to make this quick, but right after I turned 40, I think it was like the week I turned 40, 40th birthday, I watched the movie Fight Club for the first
Oh
time.
yeah.
And I had never watched it, didn't know anything about it. For anybody who's hasn't, well, what do you call it? I'm
Midlife
going to give the
crisis.
plot
Oh,
twist here.
oh, okay, yeah.
But the idea in that movie, spoiler, thank you. But the spoiler there is that this antagonist, Tyler Durden, who did everything that the main character couldn't do, ends up being the same character. They're one and the same, but the main character just didn't know that he could do these things that Tyler
Mm.
Durden did until so it was almost a matter of tapping into an alter ego. And for me, because my adult life was filled with complete and utter risk aversion, right on down to the fact that I worked at an insurance company, ironically enough, which is a complete opposite of how I grew up as a skateboarder. And I was like ollieing downstairs, like, 7, 8 stairs and doing handrails and things I could have died doing. And I literally, like I said, my ollie was super high. And there was this kid, Kurt Shively, who called me Dragon Wings because my ollies were so high. And I literally had to make Dragon Wings into an alter ego and be asking myself, what would Dragon Wings do? Like, you literally have to. And I know that there's a lot of like pop stars and stuff like that have alter egos that they tap into too. And that fascinated me. And I think that there's something to that because it provides another way of seeing yourself and operating outside of the comfort zone that you're used to. And it is, and it helped with a seismic mindset shift. But I'd also say that a key component of that was hanging around like-minded people. So like total shout out to my buddy Henry and Chad and Ben and these super encouraging people and Chad's wife, Lisa, that were doing and working on the same and working towards similar goals. Like, you want to get around people who have similar goals and passions and visions as you, because if you're just hanging around people that want to sit in a cubicle for 35 years and then die,
right?
Like, it's kind of the mindset you're probably going to adapt. So get around people who you thrive around creatively, and read. I had to do a lot of like YouTube videos. I even hired a career coach at one time. Like, I spent so much money like doing these like programs and stuff. And I think the last one I did was Kathy Heller's Don't Keep Your Day Job or something like that. And like spent a good chunk on that. And I'm like, damn it, if I don't quit my job after, sorry, I used a cuss word. But I was like, if I don't quit my job after spending this much money, like, you're just doomed. You just need to accept your fate that you're going to die in slow motion in a beige cubicle in a corporate environment. And so like that, and then a number of other life circumstances converged. And I literally, like, I had to get out of there. Like there was no choice like that. I was going to be vomited out of that place one way or another. And so I willingly chose to remove myself before that happened. So,
well, Jared also said he took your course with Garm.
The Procreate course?
Yeah. And he loved it. I don't know what he just said your course. He said that
was the one I did with Garm. And,
yes. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So he said that. So you've really done in this one big bucket, you've actually done it there's products, physical products. There are, the course is a digital product, right? You're not sitting in you're not going to Jared's house and teaching him Procreate, right?
Yeah.
So you've made product design for you be something that's that really works. So Halloween, is that your big time of year? Do you see others pops up? Or like, is Christmas big because people are buying presents or boards or something for people?
Yeah, no, like October through December, typically, so you kind of got to be ready, Yeah. And one last thing about that course, that's actually what led to the Astro Zombie being produced as an action figure, because I did that course and I designed the Astro Zombie character. Yep. And then some guy, this guy, Alex Nito, I think his name is, I didn't know him, never met him. He went ahead and sculpted a figure digitally and sent me like these mock-ups, and like I was so blown away by them. And then I posted it to Instagram, and then everybody kept tagging Super 7, the company, in it. And they were like, hey, we'd like to do an action figure of this. Are you up for that? And I was like, absolutely. So like, it's just awesome to see how little opportunities can just snowball into big opportunities. So super grateful for that. But yes, concerning October through December, those you kind of want to be ready for. And and where I'm at right now is that I'm trying to figure out how to scale what I'm doing, because I'm one guy and I don't have a whole lot of bandwidth. And so I'm trying to strategically bring in people who can help me. Like I've got a friend who's helping me on the website of things. Super grateful for Seth transferring all my domains and doing all this stuff that I have no concept of how it works. And then, I've talked to, several friends that have interest in helping me kind of plan out a year at a time. Like I'm just not a good planner. I'm not good administratively in any way.
So you got to have people to do that stuff for you so that you can be focused in on the things, the creation and the development of those things that you are really good.
And that's the artist's sweet spot. And that's why I think a lot of artists don't make it as full-time artists, is because it requires some level of being willing to do the things that no artist wants to do.
Or taking the chance and hiring other people who can, which will actually be less painful for you and give you more time. So in October through December, are you doing much creation, or is it mostly just kind of you're getting ready for the next thing and you've had to do that creation January through September?
Yeah. So what I ended up doing is like planning for big sales, like planning the Black Friday sale, what I'm going to do for that. Last year, I had some discussions with my buddy Ben, and I think he's really good at coming up with ideas and for deals and offerings and offer this with that and whatnot. And again, just my mind doesn't work that way. And so, like I said, I'm slowly warming up to the idea, the necessity at this point of bringing in other people to help me and being willing to pay people for what they're doing for me. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm trying to figure that out right now.
And that's a big step. I think that's awesome. I have so enjoyed our talk, Tim. I want everybody to be able to make sure that you can go and get your awesome posters like I did. And maybe he'll give you a sticker. I can't wait to put this one on my next sketchbook. I go through a lot of sketchbooks too, but I don't draw as good as you. But we need people to draw like me. I think, there's a place for everybody. But I want to make sure everybody knows if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching it on YouTube, all of Tim's links are going to be right at the top if you just go down to the notes section. And then there's a page on my site for this as well. So you can, I'm putting it in the chat for everybody, but Tim Barron, TimBaron.com. And then you can follow him on Instagram at Tim Barron Art. TimBaron. No, BAR. Yeah, BARON. ART. And then on LinkedIn, same thing. Tim Barron. No art on that one. And then Etsy is etsy.com/shop/Tim Barron Art. And I hope you guys will go and get they are really nice posters. They're good, thick. I actually was like, are these screen printed? They look but the color wise, your color work is amazing. Your line work is amazing. I'm glad you've done a course. You need to do some more. But thank you so much for giving so much of your time. And I'm so glad we got the audio to work.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Diane. I appreciate it.
And I'm going to hang on just a second. I'm going to say goodbye. We'll see you guys this week. The reason I got in touch with Tim was because my friend Richard Longy, he is going to be on Saturday. He can't do a Wednesday show. So he is going to be on this Saturday, but he's like, oh, Diane, you need to have Tim on. And I was like, okay, let's do both of you. So I am excited to have Tim this Saturday, and we have more product designers for the rest of November as well. We have one next Wednesday is not product designer, but it is about how art heals, and I can't wait for you to come next Wednesday and see that. But I'm gonna read John Ingles' thing. I guess I'll just read it to everybody. John says, love your style. A friend of ours, Jeff Carlson, does similar Maniac, a monster art. You two are like-minded and maybe worth connecting with him. And then he put the link in there, so I'll try to put the link in the show notes, which will be on the Creatives Ignite site. Tim, you were awesome. I can't wait to get more creepy skeleton people, man, skate or die. And I think I'll get the cat one. I'll ask for that. My husband will have to get that for me for Christmas. So awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me, Diane. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who tuned in also.
Absolutely.